EduTrainer Workshops, the insurance industry's leading education and training platform, presents Life Insurance, the entry-level series, the products, the underwriting, and the planning applications to position your practice as the premier provider of insurance products in your community. Get on board, get on track, get to where you're going. And now, your EduTrainer National Insurance columnist, Steve Savant.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Steve Savant, your EduTrainer and coach for our EduTrainer workshops on our introduction into annuities. And all this week we're doing our introduction into annuity income. In my game, I think annuities are built for income, not for just accumulation and passing on to the next generation. The tax issues are there, but I think we're always buying annuities for supplemental income, either to our retirement or maybe the bulk of our retirement. I want to look at basic ideas today, but before I do, I want you to remember to go back to day one and watch all these workshops in chronology. It's really important to me that you do them in succession because you'll have a better learning experience, and it's good tutorial practice to just walk through the basic foundational things first and then build upon them. If you've missed any of our shows, just hop out to our site, www.brokersalliance.com. As soon as you come to our homepage, just click on the red button that says On Demand Videos. It'll put you into all our EduTrainer workshop videos, including our daily internet talk show, The Business Insurance Zone, and my weekend opinion piece, Welcome to the Weekend with Steve Savant. Well, today we're talking about the need for responsible retirement planning. And I can't underscore this. One of the things that I want to talk about first before we get deep into this today is I just want to bring up that, we talk about annuities and the taxation, and sometimes we forget you could, even though it's a life product, you could look at modified endowment contracts using life insurance. Some of the older established carriers have not really migrated over to what I would call cutting edge annuitization lifetime expectancy for client rates. Those rates are still what I would call kind of behind the curve. They're really short when it comes to the timeline. And sometimes I might want to annuitize a life contract that's completely suppressed. The death benefit is suppressed. It's going to be taxed just like an annuity. And if I can get cash values into from 95 to maybe even exceeding 100% of my original at the front end, and I can annuitize those rates on those older contracts, that could be a play based on the old timeline and the actuarial experience and how they priced that product back in the day. If they're out there, you just want to look at it. I just wanted to give you a real quick heads up. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the Mondo board. I'm going to walk you through 3 basic data collectors so that you can really be heads up on how to do this, because I want to do a responsible planning for retirement, and you're going to need some walkthrough docs. And again, any of these that you like, you say, Steve, I like them all, just say, Steve, send it to me, theBIZ at brokersalliance.com. That's THEBIZ at brokersalliance.com. Okay, what I like to do is look at a retirement needs analysis data collector. This will help you harvest some of the client's information, and it's really good for you to actually understand how to walk through this, have the information. I'm going to add one thing right up front because I talked about it on Monday's class. I'm looking at, when I put the date of birth on, I also want to add to this a Part 2 medical that you would get in a life insurance app. I have my favorites because I think it collects a lot of good information. Because remember, my end game is, how can I speak about retirement needs analysis when I haven't plotted the client's mortality? And I need a good guesstimate of life expectancy. I'm using sometimes the 2001 CSO as a boilerplate. Sometimes I dip into the 2008 VBT tables, the valuation-based tables put out by the Society of Actuaries, which you can get on their site. But I want to be able to add this to what I'm talking about. So when I talk about getting the client's name, but their birth date and their retirement date, I need to know what I think their life expectancy date is, which isn't on these traditional. So when I do that, I want to see that. And also, I want to know, when do you think you're going to take constructive receipt of Social Security? Because everything we talked about income is going to have a deep impact on Social Security, and when I'm going to take it. I've noticed that as I've come into my 60s, early 60s, I've noticed that the Social Security age, I could take constructive receipt at 62. I saw another one at 66, and I could see a big one. If I can wait till 70, there's even a bigger number. I have to look at that and say, is the math on my side? Are there other strategies in Social Security? And we address that in a show that's coming up in September on how do you deal with Social Security, when to take it when. But I need to know basically what age I'm going to take Social Security, what age I think I'm going to retire, might be the same time, date of birth, so I can plot my health using a Part 2 medical form from a life app so I can give the life expectancy. Once I get the basic information, home address, phone, all that, I want to go into a needs analysis mode of collecting information. I need to know, when are you going to begin retirement? Most people are not ready to begin retirement right away. They're used to making a certain amount of income, and that income may go down. Some of our index annuities actually account for a transition or a segue. So they give you a little bit of bump the first 3 to 5 years so that you can migrate over into regular retirement income, so it's not shock and awe to go from 100%, whatever your budget has been, dropping down to 60 or 70% overnight. It gives you kind of a padding or a transition or a segue into retirement. And some of those annuities, index annuities, are very popular just because they give that small bump up during those early years, and it really prepares you and helps you get into retirement. It's not like shock and awe when you drop from 100% down to 50 or 60%. I want to know what I'm going to do. Am I going to take this monthly? Most people take their income monthly. And if I hold my position in the annuity, the payouts are going to be a little bit more because I'm deferring it a little longer. So I want to know what's the monthly amount, and I want to know what my current monthly income is. So I'm going to be able to go and ask for their Social Security numbers. I want to see what that number is at that age. I want to see what my actual generating of any qualified plans that I may have. And I want to look at any of my non-qualified annuity monies. I want to look at any kind of liquid monies like CDs or small or money markets. I want to look at everything I can see to see where he could pull money from. And if I need it in an emergency, what kind of liquidity position in retirement is my client in? I also want to be thinking about, in my retirement needs, some of these annuities will maybe have an LTC rider on it or a nursing home care rider on it. You may want to look at that if you think that you have a disposition towards that, and especially if your family tree from a health point of view has reflected those kind of ideas. So I want to look at all those issues, and then I want to say not only the beginning monthly amount, I want to know how many years after retirement, and again, I don't know how you can calculate this without doing a life expectancy, which I rarely see come across my desk from a retirement modeling position. You need to know a basic idea, and what I like to do is look at life expectancy and get a good number. I also want to know if I'm going to go so many years out and under my current income, I also want to be able to think about other income sources that I may have. Now, that means that I might be receiving an inheritance someday. I might be able to be participating in a buyout or a profit sharing plan where I might get a bump or maybe a 10-year bonus. I don't mean 10 years, I mean 10-year. You've been with the company a long time, and I want to be able to incorporate all that. Okay, here's page 2 of the basic retirement needs analysis data collector. One thing that's important is the more I work, remember whatever number I have today when I'm sitting down with the client may change. If your target retirement is age 70, and remember, since we're living longer, a lot of people are thinking, hey, instead of retiring at 65, I may need more money, so I think I'll just work a little longer. I feel pretty good shape. Our generation, the baby boomers, are a little bit more hip to the issues of good diet, exercise, watching what we're eating. Some of us have gone organic, some of us have gone vegan. Hey, whatever, if it's really helping you to come and push your retirement out, remember that Social Security number is definitely going to change. And so I'm doing it on today's numbers, and there are some models out there on the net that will actually calculate a guesstimation of what your Social Security may be, and you can look at those numbers. Again, you'll see the static number, but if you keep working, those numbers will actually increase a little bit more. So you just want to be able to look at that, and remember that if you're in a tax bracket where you're receiving other income, your Social Security benefits more than likely are going to be taxed. If it hits the provisional income test of the Social Security benefit taxation, you could be 85% of your benefits could be hit. So you just got to look at that and look at the calculation. So I want to know, is my Social Security, is it based on current earnings? Is it based on maximum earnings? So I'm thinking, well, based on what I'm projecting, if I work another 7 to 8 years, I'm out to age 70. If I look at those numbers, I'm going to say that's the real number I'm going to use. So I'm going to look at based on today. I'm going to also look at based on what I think I'm going to do over the next 8 years before I hit 70. So now I'm going to look at the user input. Am I going to do this retirement or survivor? Am I going to go do both? If I'm married, I'm going to have to go to client 2. Did my wife work? Can I calculate her current earnings? is she going to work farther than what we are today? And if I look at their Social Security report, which everybody gets every year, I'm going to look at that report and say, oh, based on this, here's that number, but here's it also based on my earnings until I think I'm going to retire. And that's another input I want to put on here. Now, the reason I do this is I list all the other income sources. I talked about client liquidity because many times when we're using annuities in concert with something like Social Security, we've annuitized most of the time. And because we're annuitized, that money's going out all the time. And I need to know, does my client have any liquidity or cash positions? So I love to go other income sources. And this one paragraph, I cannot tell you time and again how this one paragraph has sold additional sales beyond what we normally did, because then we get to kind of see where do you have other assets. And we're looking for liquid assets. Well, actually, I'm looking for all sources, but especially liquidity, just so I make sure that my client has enough space and time for emergencies, trips, things they want to do, because my income coming out in annuities and Social Security is going to be paid more than likely on a monthly basis. So I'm not going to be able to cash that in more than likely if I'm taking guaranteed income or SPIAs or annuitization. So I'm just looking at other sources, and then I want to know, are there any other capital sources? Right now, a lot of us have 401ks. Those 401ks today are accumulating at whatever interest rate or actual equity returns that we're getting. Remember that we took a big hit in 2008, so those numbers are just now starting to recover in 2012. When I look at that, I want to look at both clients' 401ks, or maybe they have a defined benefit plan or a defined contribution plan. And I want to look at those numbers and I want to know, hey, is your company matching that? So that I can look at the math here and start to figure out what I'm going to be able to really project as today's number, as well as what I think it's going to be at the time I retire. And I'm going to be forced at 70 and a half to take out qualified monies. I have to incorporate that income with my Social Security, which could impact Social Security, and should I defer and delay my annuities, or do I need the income? All that's I'm going to have to figure out the net results after taxes, and what this does is it scores out everything. It puts all this income, all the information into the data collector so I can figure out any other assets, and I'm going to look at the rate of return very low. I'm going to try to be very conservative, especially in this economy with low interest rates. If interest rates go back up, it's only going to be better, but for right now, I think we need to look at low ball numbers and try to look at what we want to do. Now, what I want to do now is go to the third page of our data collector. Okay, now we're on the third page of the retirement needs analysis data. And remember, what I want to do is I want to look at, this is the date that I'm doing this, and this is why I just plead with you to do annual reviews. I just saw a review that was done 6 years ago, so that means it was pre-2008. The numbers in there are completely skewed and wrong, and about 30% less overall than the client intended. So I need to know the date, and every year I need to do a checkup. Has any life events happened? Have you had any other access to income? Have you lost income for any reason? I need to know all that. So I date that analysis date, and when I see it, it tells me what I need to know. I notice that I put in here client mortality age. Again, if you don't know this, I say use a Part 2. If you send it to us, we'll send you the 2001 CSO as a boilerplate, and that'll help you at least get in the game. It won't be accurate if your client's preferred health or better. It's just going to show standard health. So it's important, but I want to look at those two ages, husband and wife. I want to see what the numbers are. Remember, I'm only going to get half the Social Security when the first person dies, most likely the husband. So you need to look at all those together and first death scenarios and survivorship needs and see those numbers. It's all going to change. And the taxation rate will probably change, not for the better, maybe higher for the surviving spouse. I also need to incorporate the annual inflation rate. And whatever that rate is, I can be as conservative as I need to be because we've had pretty low inflation, but I also have to incorporate a blended inflation rate. Well, it's been low for the last 10 years, but if my retirement's going to be 20 years, I might want to do a 20-year look back and see what that number is. And I also want to look at annual employment inflation rate. Have I been getting a little bump? So if I'm not retiring for the next 8 years, hey, am I going to get a little bump up in my employment rate? And then annual Social Security benefit inflation rate, well, they do it. It's pretty minuscule right now, but it might happen a couple times before I go to retirement. And when I get there, I want to know what is my rate of return? What can I depend on? And think about what is the standard inflation the government's already given. I can incorporate that all in my retirement needs analysis data and come up with a really good number to place my client in a good position for their golden years.
This has been an EduTrainment Workshop, the educational division of the National Insurance Clearinghouse, the marketing arm of Brokers Alliance.